Hey guys, what's up? Don from Driving Everest here, thanking you for tuning in to another installation video. We've got an absolutely gorgeous Florida afternoon, and today we're going to be using that to install this, the TUWA Pro bed rack system. This is hands down one of the most modular, configurable bed rack systems I've seen on the entire market. And if you've been following me on social media, you know that I've been jonesing for a bed rack for some time. So let's go ahead, get started, and look at the different boxes and what comes with it. All right, so breaking down what we've got here. First up, we've got our hardware. So one bag of hardware is actually going to be for this prototype cargo carrier that I'm going to be testing out on our Montana trip for them. And it's going to go on top of the bed rack. We've also got our hardware here that's going to be for the bed rack system. And then we've got some foam with some adhesive on one side, and it's going to help protect the truck. Now, as far as these three boxes go, like I said, this is an extremely modular system. So we're going to have one box that is actually going to be the chase rack. That's going to go where the other chase rack was. And that can be used standalone or in conjunction with the rest of the kit, and it forms a bed rack. The second piece is going to be the rear rack here. And then the last box is going to be the connecting bars that connect between the front chase rack and the rear rack. Time to open them up and get going. All right, so we've got everything unpackaged from the chase rack. We've got the top crossbar. We've got really cool side pieces with the mountain cutouts, the TUWA Pro logo there. These are going to be the plates that help adjust the height. We've got a bag of hardware. The one thing that you'll notice, guys, is there's no instructions, and it's done on purpose. So what they do instead is TUWA actually prints a QR code on the outside of their packaging, and that way they don't waste any additional trees or anything beyond what they need to package this up for you. So the instructions, you scan it on your phone, you open them up, full color PDF. If you're so inclined to print them out, you can, but otherwise you help save some trees. So all the hardware, pretty standard what I'm seeing. There's some lock nuts, a big bag of washers, big bag of different size bolts to hold everything together. Looks like some mounting points, more washers, more mounting points, and even more washers. And then these pieces. So we're going to go ahead, take a look at the instructions, and start getting this installed. All right, so the first step to get started is going to be taking these side pieces, and they're actually going to go right here. So you can kind of line that up with the line for the cab. This is where that mountain cutout's going to go, and right along here where it comes in contact with the Jeep, that's where we're going to go ahead and put some of this foam strip there. All right, so now that that's on, that's going to protect the truck itself, and don't worry, it's not going to have a big noticeable gap in there or anything because it's going to compress. All right, we're going to go ahead and position the same one on the other side and then move on to the next step. This next step is going to be easier if you don't have a 37-inch tire in the bed of your truck, but I'm going to sit on it and do my best to show you how this works. So we're going to go ahead and use these mounting plates, which are going to go up here on the inside. It's going to clamp this to the bed rail, and that's going to hold that nice and secure. I've got a 13mm socket. We're going to use the M8 bolts, flat washers and spring washers. It's going to hold all this together. There'll be two in the front, two in the back. We'll go ahead and sit this on there. We'll get this plate on, and then we'll end up doing the same for the other side. Now, if you're really observant, you notice that I put on a pair of gloves. And it is simply because this Florida sun, well, it's about mid-80s, low 90s right now. Gorgeous day, but this powder-coated steel gets extremely hot. So the tire's hot that I'm laying on, the pieces that I'm working with are hot, If you're doing this in the luxury of your own garage or something along those lines, you won't need all this. We're actually going to put the side piece on. It's going to go right there. There's some holes that line up. Again, you're going to need that 13mm socket. You're going to need an Allen key because this time, instead of a bolt, we are using an M8 hex. So you'll have a flat washer. You'll drop it through. On the bottom side, you're going to end up using a spring washer and the lock nut, and then you're going to tighten those down. Simple as that. Repeat on both sides. So we've got the side piece on. Next up is going to be the top piece. Now this is where we actually adjust the height for this. So we've got 3 different settings: the lowest setting, a mid setting, and a high setting. It's going to line up with these holes here, and then our crossbar is going to attach here. So when we think about this, let's see, this is going to be on the interior. If you want it at the highest setting, it's going to sit about that high. It's going to be just over cab height. If we come down a little bit, the mid setting, once we put our top bar on, it's going to be right at cab height. And then our lowest setting is going to come down here. Now, all of these are going to clear the spare tire. That's something I'm not actually changing the position anytime soon. But just for the most room in the bed, it's going to be one of the top 2 settings for me. So we can go as high as we possibly can go, or a mid height, which is going to take us right about to the cab. Let's try mid height, see how we like it. If not, we can always adjust it after that. Same process here. It's going to have 4 of the hex screws, some washers, some nuts. We'll be all set. Now that we've got the sides on, we've got those brackets on, it's time to put the crossbar on. So up here in the back of the truck, this is going to lay over top. There we go. So it actually has a couple of grooves that it slides into here. Now what we're going to do is we're really just going to make sure that it's even on both sides. We'll get the back ones put in, and then we're going to move on to the side panels. All right, so we've got the crossbar put on. This thing, now that it's bolted down, is extremely sturdy. And the last piece really is going to be one of the coolest pieces in my opinion, and that's going to be this mountain cutout right here. It looks awesome. It looks like it was custom made for Everest. It wasn't, but I'd like to think that it was. It's a perfect match. This actually is going to bolt in. There's going to be 2 bolts that are going to go on here to this side piece, and then 2 more that are going to bolt it here, and that's going to hold the entire thing together nice and tight. From there, all we'll have to do is drop the plastic mounting hooks on there if we want to add those tie down points, and then we'll move on to the rest of the bed rack. All right, so the last thing we got to do here is put the tie down points on. Now, it's going to mount here into these recessed holes. You'll slide a large washer and a spring washer on the backhand side. Slip a lock nut on there. Tighten it down and you're good to go. Now from here, the chase rack is going to be finished. And if that's all you ordered, this is your last step. If you've got the rest of the bed rack, now you're going to move on to the rear piece. All right, so that's going to do it. I've got the tie downs put on. The chase rack is complete, rock solid. I'm going to go ahead and take a break there. We'll pick it up tomorrow morning, go ahead and put the rest of the bed rack together. But for now, it's time to crack a beer, fire up the grill, and call it a night.